Hi folks, Dustin from Music the Lifeblood here. Welcome to Vinyl Thursday. So it is time to check out Volume 2 of Glenn Danzig's Lyrics of the Left Hand with illustrations by Simon Bizley. Very excited about this one. But before we jump into it, heads up, I did Volume 1 quite a while ago here on Vinyl Thursday. So if you get an opportunity, go check that out. Volume 1, Volume 2, doesn't matter. They're both absolutely badass. Now, that said, friendly reminder that as it relates to Music the Lifeblood, we have done a ton of content based on Danzig, Samhain, the Misfits, and or that big arena of related bands over the years. And whether you're checking out the Music the Lifeblood podcast, older episodes of Vinyl Thursday, or even Conversations from the Pit, if you're a fan of that group of bands, there's going to be a lot of stuff that I think you'll enjoy. So feel free to have at it. Before we open this, I do think it's worth at least kind of addressing, the creative relationship between Glenn Danzig and Simon Bizley has been, it's a long tenure. They've been working together for decades at this point. Biz is one of those artists that came out of the alt artistic comic boom of the 90s. He drew things in a way that went against the grain of what was the established art style of the two big comic publishers, DC and Marvel, obviously. We get things like Image Comics in the 90s, and we get artists that are doing things in different ways, which I think is very, very important as far as pushing the envelope, of what it meant to be a comic artist at that time. I think everybody thinks about, Todd working on Spawn, and he was a mainstay for, I think Todd did Amazing Spider-Man, right? A mainstay at Marvel for a long time, did his own thing, was drawing Spider-Man in a completely different way than what John Romita or even Jack Kirby were drawing him. And that stuff's important. But I think what I most appreciate about Biz is that I think his relationship with Danzig, I think in each other, they found a creative kindred spirit, I suppose. I think they do things in a way that they're in lockstep, and they can kind of march in a way together that really well, it lines up. It lines up amazingly. And it's hard for writers, be it comic book or even songwriters. It's hard to find someone that you can, gel with in a way that you can lock in and kind of know what each other's doing and appreciate what the other person is doing in a way that enhances the other. That's hard to find for a lot of artists. I think just the two of their relationship, it'd be neat to sit down and just have a conversation with them and talk to them about how the creative process looks between the two of them. And for me, I'm a younger Generation Xer. I was born in 1979. I really appreciate artists like John Byrne, John Buscema. He worked on Conan for a really long time. I really appreciate that style of comic book art, but at the same time, too, it's amazing to be able to have artists that are willing to just take a left turn and do something completely different and try things in a way that we actually saw the birth of a new kind of comic book style through the 90s. And I appreciate that immensely. You got to have your Simon Bizleys of the world, even though his technique is clearly rooted in, traditional things, I guess, for lack of a better term. If you sat down and asked Biz, hey, do you like Frank Frazetta? He would probably say yes. And one of the things that I've always liked about Frazetta's work is his anatomy and physiology. He tends to exaggerate the features of women. He draws them very, let's say, voluptuously. I don't know if that's a word or not, but he enhances those anatomy traits. And then on top of that, too, when you look at the male form that he tends to draw, they're exaggerated too. You look at him and you go like, Jesus, he could have the championship, in the WWF in the 1980s. He had that sort of bigger than life quality. And even guys like Boris Vallejo too. You know, Boris had a much more polished, and there's a sheen to his technique. And I appreciate that too. But at the same time, to me, Biz kind of mixes both of those worlds together, where he really does exaggerate his features. He really, really does. There's no denying it. But on top of that too, he has a cleanness to the way that he creates his messiness. Hopefully that makes sense, because, you know, those two words, they may not work together, but his technique is clean in the sense that the grittiness and the ugliness and the explicit nature of what he's drawing comes through very clearly. So that's kind of difficult to articulate, but hopefully you guys get what I'm saying. But Biz's technique, I think it's amazing. It's one of those times where it was a real pleasure to grow up in a time where I saw for lack of a better term, the birth of the kind of style that Simon Bizley works in. Just a really neat time to be a young person. And on top of that too, as I've gotten older, it's been a real pleasure to continue to see it grow from his resume standpoint. But if you guys get an opportunity, good Lord, go check out Biz's website. He's got a big gallery on there. There's a ton of stuff. He's got things for sale. You know, just the dude's a titan, an absolute titan. And it's only fitting that he would be drawing, you know, Pillar Figures lyrics, you know, like Glenn Danzig. It's only fitting that the two of them wound up working together. And then on top of that too, make sure you go check out all the Verotic stuff as well. I really like the Jaguar God title. That's one of my favorites. That's one of the very first things I picked up from Verotic. I think it's phenomenal. Absolutely amazing. But enough of that. Let's open this thing up. So you get a totally sweet drawing on the inside cover. It's interesting that it's shades of maybe reds and browns, I suppose, and blacks, obviously white. I thought it was interesting that they didn't do just grayscale with this. I thought that was, it was just eye-catching. I thought it was cool. And oh, hey, look at that. Somebody signed this. Yeah, this one's signed by Glenn Danzig, which that's cool to have in your collection. That's awesome. I've never been a big autographed hound. It's not something I've really, it's never been my thing. I'd much rather meet the person and have like a good conversation with them as opposed to walking away with an autograph. But that said, it's totally awesome that this issue is signed. It was amazing when I got this because I didn't know it was signed when I bought it. So it was a very happy surprise. So 2018 on this one, I believe the first volume was 2010, 2011-ish. I'm trying to pull that from memory. I could be wrong. Don't quote me. And then obviously the Evil Live and the Verotic imprint, which by the way, the Verotic eBay store, I think it's a Verotic World something on eBay. Good opportunity. You can go pick up stuff. Glenn will put up signed stuff occasionally. There's just a ton on there. So heads up if you're one of those kind of collectors, it's worth checking out for sure. And then we get some linear notes here. So 9 years ago, we released the Hidden Lyrics book featuring my lyric words for Danzig, Samhain, and Misfits songs that I wrote. Each accompanied by an illustration from master artist Simon Bizley. It proved to be a huge success, and it almost immediately fans were asking if there was going to be another volume. And that is why this second volume came to be. But I have to say, I also love seeing Simon illustrate my songs because he's the effing biz, which means the business, in case you didn't know. Simon's art can be delicate 1 second and then hit you in the face like a Mack truck the next. Bizley and I have also been working together for over 25 years, so I trust him to do the incredible art for my songs that he does. Like I said, he's the effing biz. Glenn actually wrote effing, by the way, so I'm not omitting anything. But of course, as many of you know, Simon doesn't just bang shit out. He takes his time doing some of his best work with these illustrations. And believe me, it's well worth the wait. Hope you'll agree. And with that, here's the second edition, Glenn Danzig, June 2018. So first section is Danzig songs. We got Last Ride, Black Laden Crown, Devil on Highway 9, But a Nightmare, all off of Black Laden Crown, which was released in 2017. So we're in the ballpark here, within that album being released at the time that they did this. They put this book out. So it makes sense. You want to hype the new album. And then Skull Forest and 1,000 Devil's Rain, both of those are on Circle of Snakes. I think Circle of Snakes is 2004. That's the album that Bevan Davies drummed on. Tommy Victor's on guitar, Glenn, obviously. And then there's Elusiferi and Black Mass and Halo Goddess Bone, all from Danzig 7. Elusiferi, which, if you guys watch that episode of Vinyl Thursday, that is my absolute full stop, no contest favorite Danzig album. And I'm pretty certain it'll probably remain my favorite Danzig album for the rest of my days. Absolutely love that album. It's amazing. If you haven't checked it out, go do it. Watch that episode of Vinyl Thursday. I cannot overstate how important that album has been in just my life over the course of the last, 25. That was released in 2002. So, over 20 years. It's a huge album for me. And then we got Killer Wolf and Her Black Wings from Danzig 2, Lucifuge. And then obviously I Am Demon from the self-titled album, which that would have been 1988. Yes, 88. So nice little crosscut. Some surprises. I wasn't expecting to get something from Elusiferi when I bought this. I was, genuinely surprised. So it was cool. So first up, Last Ride. Hopefully you guys can see that really well. Yeah, that's cool. A little reminiscent of the Die Die My Darling artwork from way back when it was released with the Misfits. I say the Misfits and Misfits interchangeably. I was thinking about that the other day. I think I can pretty confidently call them the Misfits because, you look at the logo, the Static Age logo, you can see the very clearly. So I don't know if you guys do that or not, but I do it interchangeably, whatever works in the sentence that I'm currently saying. Yeah, look at, I hope this can come through, but, just being able to see Biz's individual, the strokes of his pen and pencil. And I often wonder how much charcoal he uses, or if he does. I don't know. I've never came across videos of him showing his technique or anything. You can get on YouTube and you can watch guys like, Jim Lee or Alex Ross, drawing and doing illustrations, and you can kind of get an idea of what their technique is all about. But I don't know. It's obviously there's some pencil in there, and I'm assuming ink, and I think it's probably a mixed media approach that Biz does. But came out great. It's awesome looking. Hopefully you guys it's coming through on the video, but the detail in the eye, the shadow on the sclera, and then the pupil, and yeah, the detail in that eye looks incredible. And the lips too. The sheen and the light coming through, hitting the lips. Looks really, really neat. And then Black Laden Crown. Yeah, this thing's cool. I thought that bat necklace, armor, whatever you want to call it. That thing came out looking super badass. And then the orientation changed. I can't remember how much of that we got in the first volume, but this is for Devil on Highway 9, again, off of Black Laden Crown. I like the idea that the ghoul is flipping the cop off. That's awesome. Neat thing back here, look at some of the details. You see the skull faces in the landscape behind them. And then, the moon, just all of that sort of bleed and wash and blending that happens. Yeah, it came out looking great. And the sense of humor comes through too, which I think is cool to see. And I think But a Nightmare is next. His bone technique is really, really good. And he puts a lot of details, especially in his backgrounds. Coming from, old school comic book, reading and collecting. There was a time during comic books, there was a colorist and I think an inker that worked with Jack Kirby when he was at Marvel that ended up, can't remember which one it was. It was one of the two that ended up, really, really taking some liberties with Jack Kirby's artwork and just completely covering up a lot of Jack's detail in the background and things like that, which was a real bummer. And that, born out of bad decisions made from probably having too much stuff to do, have an artist and an inker and having too much on their plates, or someone that didn't have the best interests of the story in mind as far as it related to what Jack Kirby and Stan Lee had been doing. But Vince Coletta is what's popping in my head. Jack Kirby had a lot of really, really great artwork that just got mangled, in the process of getting it to print and actually releasing it, which is a huge bummer. And I would put money on that. No way, not in a million years would Glenn Danzig, do something like that to Simon Bisley's art. There's no way. I think there's so much reciprocal respect between the two of those guys that's just never going to be an issue. That's just not going to happen. So it's nice to, on the other end of it, the people that enjoy the art that they're putting out, it's nice to know that, I guess they're not self-editing each other, I suppose would be a good way to put it. And that's a good sign of a great working relationship. So, but good God, look at the face. Look at the details on the face here. Eyes wide. You get the mascara running. You can see the eyelashes. Her eyebrows look amazing. The position of the bottom lip. It just looks, Biz fucking killed it on this. Okay, up next, Skull Forest from Circle of Snakes, which I think is arguably probably Danzig's heaviest album. 2004. Yeah. It's a great album. Just the production is just thick. It's heavy. And Tommy Victor was, Tommy loves those squeaks and squawks, that he chokes out of his guitar, which, pinch harmonics, obviously, it's just something Tommy is really good at. And the production of it was it was killer. And it's stripped down too. There's not a bunch of overdubs when Tommy takes a solo. There's not a ton of stuff happening in the background. It's just the rhythm section killing it. A really, really true to the term heavy album. And it's, in my opinion, it's overlooked, when it comes to the Danzig catalog. But Skull Forest is awesome. Biz killed it on this. Look at the detailing on all those skulls. It just looks badass. And the cool thing is they're not all in the same position as well. It's easy for artists to, come up with 3 different angles to draw something from, and then they'll just repeat that. But I mean, he's putting things at different positions, lights hitting it, which causes the contours and the shading to be a little bit different from one to the other. Some of them have, you can see the plates, where the plates break in the skull, that little jagged joint that happens. Just, it looks amazing. And even the background down here, looks like she's walking through, she's walking through maybe a swamp or something. Just, it's cool as hell. You can see the signatures down there. My guess is that Biz signed both of their names if I had to guess. But yeah, really, really, really cool. And Thousand Devil's Reign, again from Circle of Snakes. This is a very busy piece of artwork. There's a lot going on here. God, that looks cool. I think the thing I like about this the most is this. That horse with, dragon wings. That just looks cool as hell. Yeah, it's awesome. It's got a bit of an apocalyptic feel to it. Like the army of hell coming your way. It's a good song, too. Circle of Snakes has got an awesome batch of songs on it. Yeah, super cool. And then Luciferi. So I'll never not jump on an opportunity to talk about Danzig 7, Luciferi. God, good Lord. I love that album so much. That was my, I had known about Danzig prior to that album being released, but, I was really, really fixated on Samhain and the Misfits, especially around that time. And then Luciferi was my first new Danzig album. It was when I started to really tune in to what Danzig was doing. And it was my jumping on point. So I think that happens with, a lot of people, a lot of fans, that whatever your new album at the time you discovered a band, that there's a tendency for us to hold that in a really high esteem. But for me, I think beyond me having, a significant personal connection to the album, I think it's a genuinely badass album coming out of the late 90s and, just Danzig 5 and 6. I love Satan's Child. I love that album. But to me, Luciferi just it up the ante on it. Just incredible. I love Todd Youth as a guitarist, Joey Castillo as a drummer. I just think they were firing on all 4 cylinders at that point. And Howie Pyro as a bass player too, which Howie's great. It was sad to hear about his passing. Just a hell of an era for the band. And I got to see him on that tour too. So like I said, it holds a really, really special place for me. But yeah, this is awesome. And what I like about this too is that, you look at the hand, it's the glove. It's the version of the gloves that Glenn was wearing on that tour. Because I remember when I saw him, I was right up on the barricade for the first few songs. And Glenn was wearing those gloves, and you could see, the ends of them, creepy, pointed, sharp, claw-looking things. And it was cool to see up close, and obviously the ever-present belt buckle when it comes to Glenn. It's just, yeah, it's an extension of that album, the vibe that was going on for that album. And the song is great. Yeah. The lyrics too. Warm, I'm on a 9-day fall. Lucifer, I won't. Just, what a cool song. Everybody asks me, what's your favorite song? Your Danzig song. And so I think by nature of Luciferi being my favorite album, and then my favorite song on that album is The Coldest Sun. So I guess that means that's my favorite Danzig song. So, which, good Lord, that song is incredible. Absolutely amazing. Then I think Black Mass is, Black Mass is next. Which this thing is killer. Look at that. Look at the dagger. The curved blade, the hilt of the dagger. He's throwing up the horns on his left hand over there. The lycanthrope down here. The torches in the foreground. Just the weird sort of druid-looking figures in the background. Just the altar of sacrifice, I guess. I suppose that's what you would call it, but God, that one's awesome. This made me think of Beastmaster. I was thinking about it the other day. I love it's a really 80s movie, but I still think the movie's cool. It's awesome as hell. The death guards, the ferrets, the lead, what's his name? I can't remember the actor's name, but he's all cut and wiry and ripped. The Mayax, the evil priest, and all that stuff. I just think that's such a fun movie from my childhood. I just think it's awesome. But yeah, this made me think of Beastmaster. I thought of Mayax. Was that Rip Torn? I think it's Rip Torn. But the thing about this is, Biz's illustration is quite a bit more menacing than what Beastmaster's ever going to be. But still, man, it's awesome. It's a good song too. It's the opening full-blown song with lyrics on Luciferi. Yeah, God, I love that album. And then Halo Goddess Bone, which, look at Biz's shadow work here. Look at the way the lights are hitting the ribs. You got your light sources up and in the background. So it causes everything in the foreground facing forward that's, it's dark. And it just, good God. What is it? I think Ona is the one that's on your thumb sign in your radius. It's on the other side, I think. So you look at the radius in the Ona here, just the way the light is bouncing off of it. Biz has got just such a good concept of, he does exaggerated physiology so well. It's his thing. It's awesome to see. The halo of light up here. Just, what do they call those? My brother uses them occasionally. Derek, you guys know Derek, my brother, pops in on Conversations from the Pit sometimes. He's an illustrator. He got his degree in illustration. He's a designer. That's his thing. And one of the tips that he showed me when I was really young, I'm 7 years younger than Derek. So when he was in college, like 18, 19, 20, 21 years old, I'm, 13, 14, 15, 16, somewhere in that area. And as Derek's illustration skills got better and better, I saw him start using, he's always called it just a whiteout pen. It's a pen that just stark white ink, and it's thick. You know, he would use those to make, you know, white areas pop. And by not doing it everywhere in the illustration, it has that much more impact. And I wonder if that's Biz's technique, or does he go through, does he erase? Does he use one of those whiteout pens, whatever it is? I'd love to actually see Biz just sit down and draw something. It would be amazing to be able to check it out. Yeah. Came out amazing. And then I think we got the stuff from Lucifuge. Yeah, Killer Wolf. Tells you everything you need to know. Looks like he's walking through a swamp. You know, to me, that looks like watercolor back there. I don't know if I'm right, but that looks like, you know, gray shades of watercolor, maybe. But, oh, good Lord, it's amazing. The veins, you know, how sinewy it is. You know, when you look at Biz's anatomy, you know, you can see like how much torque there is in the stuff, you know, in the hands and the muscle adductor, abductor, you know, how much torque or grip, you know, whatever his subject matter has, you know, so it adds to the menacing nature of what he's drawing, and sort of it enhances what's going on with the lyrics. Just Biz and Danzig, I think it's a match made in hell, for lack of a better term. And there's her black wings, which I think this is probably one of my favorite illustrations in here. It's a song off of Lucifuge. Dun 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 dun. Blackest of the black, darker than night. Come to me, my bleeding light. Just killer. Absolutely killer. You know, the wings back here. You know, her. It's just amazing. It's so much fun to look at. You know, it's a fun thing to walk down, you know, an imaginary path, you know, of thought. You know, what would the rest of the world look like, you know, that these characters exist in? You know, just sort of traveling down that line of thought and sort of getting lost in it. It's a cool feeling. Yeah. Oh God, look at the hand. Look at how well Biz drew that hand. God, that's cool. Her jewelry, earrings. Her eyes are wide. God, it's killer. It's amazing. You know, this is obviously supposed to be Glenn. You know, the belt buckle, the ever-present belt buckle, you know, it's just awesome. It's cool looking. It's a good song, too. It's one of my favorites on Lucifuge. I think the last time I saw Danzig, they played it. I'm pretty sure they did. Doyle came out for a little bit. All right, In My Demon. This is another one. That just came out. Killer. Ugh. You know, look at the skeletons in the background, the skulls. You know, it looks like, you know, just the way she's kneeling and throwing up the devil horns, you know, it underscores the, you know, the occult, the macabre, the morbidity, you know, of what's going on as far as the illustration goes. And then it ties into the lyrics. It's just, yeah. Words of faces, empty eyes, I see nothing new. Yeah, It's amazing. Look at the look at Biz's contour, as far as her body goes. The little the indentations, the dimples in her back, the bottom of her back. How her left shoulder is sort of crooked down and putting her at an angle to be able to raise her right hand. It just like the like I said, I've talked about like Biz's anatomy. Oh God, you can tell he knows his anatomy because it's what allows him to be able to comfortably exaggerate all these features. That's the mark of a really, really great illustrator, his ability to dial something up or down in a way that enhances, whatever it is that he's wanting to put forward as far as the storytelling of the picture goes, Power seething, really reeling, reaching out for you. Okay, next up, Samhain. 3 songs, November's Fire, I Am Misery, and Archangel, which, interesting choices. Yeah. Love Samhain. So, I think this is my favorite one. The reason being is that, obviously, November Coming Fire, I love it as far as the album goes. It's absolutely incredible. To Walk the Night, Mother of Mercy, I think Human Pony Girl's on there. Just from an album standpoint, to me, that's I have a really special association with that album because when I first discovered Samhain, I think the first thing I picked up was Initium. I think that was the very first thing I heard. Really liked Initium, Black Dream, The Shift, All Murder, All Guts, All Fun, Archangel's on there, obviously. And then I think the next thing I picked up was November Coming Fire, I believe. And just sitting with that album, I was on CD and just sort of diving into it and reading the notes on the inside of the jacket and then eventually getting it on, LP. I got one of the ones with the little skip loop, that happens on Diablos 88, I believe. Yeah, it's on that opening track. But it just brought that cover illustration for November Coming Fire to life. I think that's why. It was neat to see that part of the Samhain world just fleshed out a little bit more to get the shadows and the size differential between, the 4 characters that are on the cover of it. It was really neat to see. Yeah, it's like when you finally see something in the light, maybe, I don't know what that would be, but to just see when you're able to make out all the details and finally see something for what it is fully, where it's realized. Just, again, Biz's shadow work. Look at the way the light's hitting the hand and, his, that hand's curving down and just the shadows moving. And it's almost like you can see the fire dance and the shadows move around it. It came out great. Lyrically, too, the song's very, very good. November Coming Fire. So I think the first time I listened to this song, it was with a buddy when I was in high school, and he had this album. And, I knew who Samhain was by that point, and we started talking about how the correct pronunciation of Samhain is Samhain, right? And I had heard interviews from the band, and I had heard Danzig say Samhain. But in November's Fire, November coming fire, Samhain grim. He pronounces it Samhain. And we had a discussion and a debate about, okay, well, what's that mean? And I walked away from that feeling like, okay, well, I think he's, it's obviously he's putting a different kind of pronunciation and affectation on the pronouncing of the name of the band, even though it's clear that Glenn Danzig, the person, knows how the word was originally pronounced. So we kind of walked away going, yeah, I think he just made an artistic decision to, have the band called Samhain, which I thought that was cool. And then when you were a young Metallica fan at that time, you see pictures of the band wearing a Samhain t-shirt, and you read articles from older magazines, and you find out that driving in the car, I think Kirk Hammett had said that Cliff was the guy that would sort of commandeer the stereo in the car a lot of the time, and he would put on stuff like the Misfits and Samhain, and he has the conversation with Kirk or James or Dave or whoever is in the band at the time, that it's pronounced Samhain. That's the real pronunciation of it. And I thought it was neat. It's kind of one of those rabbit holes you crawl down as a young person and do a little bit of debate and discussion. It's a very cool thing. But yeah, oh man, it's awesome. I wish I could have this on an enormous poster. Maybe Biz and Glenn will sell one at some point. It's cool looking. So I think I am Misery. Yeah, I am Misery. So Samhain has the girl, the Unholy Passion girl, I guess, if that's what you want to call her. The naked chick that's on the cover of Unholy Passion. To me, I think that's supposed to be her. But in here we have assorted mass murderers and serial killers. So we got Stalin back there, John Wayne Gacy, David Berkowitz, Charles Manson, and the three young ladies from the Manson family, Jeffrey Dahmer. You got a bunch. I think, imagine being, like 1983, 84, 85, and seeing a Samhain flyer with this on it. That's kind of what I think about, Samhain live at the Metro with, whatever band, the Necros or some sort of related band, The Samhain artwork is just consistently killer, absolutely killer. And I thought when I first saw this, I was like, oh man, that would have looked awesome on a flyer. Just imagine having the Samhain logo through here and then live at Raji's, or, whatever the case is. That would have made a great flyer. I Am Misery is a great song too. Good Lord. The Unholy Passion EP is phenomenal. I think Moribund is on there. I think that was probably the third thing I listened to from Samhain. I think Initium, and then November Coming Fire, and then Unholy Passion, and then later on, I bought the box set and I got the live album, and then obviously Final Descent, which was almost called Samhain Grim. But the changeover from Damien and London May to John Christ and Chuck Biscuits, that's the point that happens in the band's history. And, everything eventually changes to Danzig. Rick Rubin is introduced at that point, and, they sort of take the next big turn in Glenn Danzig's creative development. So, yeah, Unholy Passion it's amazing. I think, I always think of Steve. Steve Zane, he's the first drummer for Samhain, and he played on Initium and an Unholy Passion. And I've interviewed Steve a couple times, and he's always been really, really nice to me. Steve's been great to me. If I got a question, I can message him and, hey, dude, what's up with this? That sort of thing. And, when the couple times I've interviewed with him, it's just been a great interaction. He's just one of those. Steve's the kind of guy you want in your band because he makes being in the band easier just by virtue of his sort of steadiness and his professionalism. I absolutely understand why Glenn has wanted him around all these years, because he just, like I said, he just makes life in the band easier. He's trustworthy. He handles his business. Steve's not the kind of guy that's going to show up to rehearsal hungover and, act a fool, that sort of thing. And he knows his shit. Steve knows how to run a soundboard. He knows how to make sure that a backline is, amps are hooked up and everything's mic'd properly. And he has enough studio understanding that if Glenn would need him to be at a studio to help do some recording, Steve could just as easily play bass or just as easily engineer the session. He's one of those guys, kind of jack of all trades types, that just makes life in the band so much more easy. And you need those guys. You absolutely need those guys on the level that Glenn Danzig is at. So kudos to him. And his drumming on I Am Misery. Steve kills it on that EP. He's just an awesome dude. All right, I think November. Yeah, it's Archangel. Yeah, it's Archangel. Yeah, that came out awesome. Got kind of a crusade vibe going on. The wings look great. You can see the way Biz drew the feathers. I thought it was, they're rough looking. And the hilt of the sword with the eye. I don't know if you guys can see it, but it's an eyeball. Archangel's a good song. There was a point that we almost got a version of Archangel with Dave Vanian from The Damned singing on it. That almost happened, but not quite. Whenever I talk to Samhain fans, that's one of the songs that are like, oh my God, I love Archangel. I think it's incredible. I think on Initium, The Howl or The Shift, they're both really good. I love that whole album, Black Dream. Good Lord. I don't know if I can pick a favorite. I'd have to think about it for a while, but Archangel's killer. And next, we got the Misfits songs. So Devilock, Blood Feast, Brain Eaters, Halloween, London Dungeon, Who Killed Marilyn, and Comeback. So a nice little smattering of the different eras of the Misfits. Devilock and Blood Feast obviously being on Earth AD. And then Brain Eaters and Halloween. They're both on Walk Among Us, but there's a lot of different versions of the song out there. I think Brain Eater's first appearance is on Walk Among Us, but Halloween's first appearance was the Halloween single. So that would have been October of 81, which that is Doyle's first appearance in the Misfits catalog. And then we get the Walk Among Us version in 82. And then London Dungeon is the 3 Hits from Hell 7-inch. So that's first quarter of that's April. That's April of 81. And then Who Killed Marilyn would be 81 later that year because Glenn released that on his own. So that would have been like somewhere around August and September of 81, I believe. I might be wrong about some of those dates. Sorry. And then Comeback, pretty sure the first time anybody heard Comeback was on Legacy of Brutality. So that would have been third quarter of 1985. And then we got it again in the box set So that would have been early 1996 in that abridged version of Static Age that was in the box set. And then we got a full-on true Static Age release, and that was early 97. I think it's February of 97, but again, could be wrong about some of the dates. I should have looked some of this up before I did this, but if I'm wrong, correct me. Feel free. But yeah, good little cross-section of everything. Yeah. So first up is Devilock. Yeah. Devilock. Just, yeah. I love the lyrics. That's one of those things where, so when I bought the Misfits box set, I'm blanking on who they consulted on the lyrics for the songs that are printed in the box set, but for the longest time, the only lyrics I knew were the lyrics that were in the box set. And holy shit, are some of them so utterly wrong. It's staggering. It's just staggering how bad the translation of those lyrics are, especially from the stuff that's on Earth AD. It's just like, how did you get this? Like, and I can understand, well, I wrote it as what it sounded phonetically. Well, I don't know, because you filled in the gaps of stuff that came out of your mind. And, so for the longest time, I thought the lyrics to Devilock were not that. I'm not even going to repeat them because they're stupid. That version of them is stupid that I originally learned. So it took me a long ass time to be able to, to sort of transpose them from the wrong version to the right version in my head. So it's just the pitfalls of being a Misfits fan, I guess. But yeah. Yeah, this thing's awesome. So obviously this is a nod to the figure, the illustration that's on the cover of the Misfits Legacy of Brutality album, or Misfits Legacy of Brutality. I remember the first time I saw that cover. I think I bought that. On CD. My brother had taken me. We come from a small town called Hartford City, and the town over, or two towns over, was a place called Muncie. That's where Ball State University is. So on the weekends, you would go to Muncie because that's where the record stores were there. It was a college town. So, all the cool places to hang out were there. And there was a record store called One Music. And it was on the Ball State campus, kind of in the corner of a building full of businesses, sort of back there in the corner. And I remember there was a spiral staircase in front of it, but I don't know what's there now. I haven't been in that area for a long time, but we went into One Music, looked around, and that Legacy of Brutality was one of the CDs I saw on the wall. Boom, snatched it up. So that was my first copy of Legacy of Brutality. And I remember looking at the figure on the cover, just being like, that's fucking incredible. Just amazed at the illustration of it. And this is obviously Biz's take on that figure that's on the front of it. And, obviously Glenn wore that bone shirt and the face paint, for, with the Misfits. I don't know how many shows he did it, but I don't think it was many, in the original run of the Misfits. It could have just been one. But I'm not going to stop and look it up. But, so obviously this is sort of like an avatar of an interpretation of Glenn Danzig, but just Biz took it to the next level. Just like I said, the torque of the muscles, it's flexing, the exaggerated muscle definition and the look on the face, the rattiness and wetness of the hair. Just, it's killer. It's absolutely killer. Yeah. Yeah, God, Biz is great. It's a killer song too. I think everybody knows my favorite Misfits release is Earth AD. Wolf's Blood. Earth AD / Wolf's Blood. It's my favorite thing. And it's one of those times where, I wish we could have got more of that era of the Misfits, but stuff had just kind of reached critical mass, and Glenn was wanting to move on, and the gears weren't lining up as far as everybody being on the same page as far as pushing the band forward at that time. And I get it. Sometimes you're in a band with people that don't look at things on the same page that you do at that time. Doesn't mean you can't come back together and reconvene at some point, which is what we had to happen with the Misfits, obviously. But, Earth AD, I interviewed Spot, the guy that recorded Earth AD, and he recorded a bunch of stuff by Black Flag. Most importantly, in my opinion, is Damaged. Spot's production style and engineering style. I asked Spot, what was it like recording the Misfits? And Spot jokingly said, it was a pain in the ass. And I laughed. And, in the conversation I had with Spot, I always just got the feeling that at that point the Misfits they were just like a fucking freight train. You look at the live footage from that era of the band, Robo's drumming, Doyle, Jerry, Glenn, they're a fucking war machine. I don't know what else to call it. It's just blunt force and violent trauma was sort of the name of the game for the Misfits at that point. And I think what we got on Earth AD Wolf's Blood was an extension of that. It was an extension of the sheer brutality of the way the music was being played at that point. Robo, being this, I always get the impression Robo is kind of a quiet, reserved sort of guy, but you put him behind a drum kit and he's just a fucking monster. And the same thing with Doyle and Jerry. Doyle's a beast. Even when he was in his teens, when he was in the Misfits, he's just a fucking monster. And look at what he became, He had to build a guitar to his specs so that it could take the punishment that he was going to dole out to it. You know what I mean? And then Glenn on top of that, just Glenn being a goddamn madman in a live setting at that point in the Misfits, timeline, just freaking out, crawling around on the stage, in the audience, swinging fists, screaming his head off, that sort of thing. Earth AD sort of captured that part, the essence, I guess, would be a good way to put it. They call it, Earth AD Wolf's Blood, sorry. I just call it Earth AD for short sometimes, but they were able to just snatch the essence of the band out of the air and get it to tape. And we have this document, where there are points in Earth AD Wolf's Blood that it borderlines on thrash, even though they're not a thrash band. It's just one of those albums for me in my lifetime, and I think for a lot of Misfits fans, it just represents something a little bit different than what Walk Among Us or Evil Live or Static Age represents. It's this exclamation point at the end of the Misfits arc of the original era of the band that I don't know where you go from there, because I don't think you do. How are you going to top that? How do you top Earth AD Wolf's Blood? It's just phenomenal album. Just absolutely amazing album. Can't imagine my life without it, but the Devil Lock illustration. Sorry, I went off on a tangent. Okay, Blood Feast. Nailed it. Look at that. When they pull out her tongue, pull off her face, pluck out her eyes. Yeah. Biz killed it on this. Good Lord. Jeez. Biz is amazing. I love this song too. I remember the first time I heard this song. Do, the way that song starts. Yeah. When you think of severed heads, think of my face, think of your life, and then a human blood feast. When you think of my face, think of your blood, think of your death, and then a great big blood feast. Yeah. Blood Feast, the movie, too, which is worth mentioning. God. Ugh. Glenn's lyric, the mood he was in lyrically at that time too, is definitely worth mentioning, because Glenn doesn't. I mean, he'll do rhymed iambic pentameter, but on Earth AD there's a ton of unrhymed iambic pentameter, and I think it adds to the abrasive nature of Earth AD Wolf's Blood. It enhances what's going on musically, because it's just so damn jarring that you don't even get the satisfaction of two lines being rhymed. It makes it all that much more abrasive, which in the grand arc of the Misfits, it's genius in that sense, because your brain goes to a place, da 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 da. Instead, you get da 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 da. It's varied, and it causes it to be. It has a disorienting nature to it, to where you don't know what's going to come next from a rhythm and a lyrical standpoint. It's, like I said, it's abrasive, it's jarring. I think that's one of the things I most appreciate about that whole album. Just absolutely phenomenal album. Ugh. Biz killed it. I think this is Brain Eaters. Yep. Walk Among Us is a good album. The other thing about this too is that Biz, I thought it was interesting. He kind of changed up his border. He made it look like maybe like a scroll or a piece of paper. What you get there? Crimson Ghost and a skull cauldron of brains. That's awesome. That's absolutely incredible. This is Halloween. And what a cool nod. You get the Danzig call, you get the Samhain girl, and then you get the Crimson Ghost down here with the kids, burning bodies hanging from poles. Bonfires burning bright, pumpkin faces in the night. I remember Halloween, dead cats hanging from poles, little dead are out in droves. Brown leaf vertigo, where skeletal life is known. I remember Halloween, this day anything goes, burning bodies hanging from poles. I remember Halloween. Yeah. Look at the, Biz did dried leaves down there on the ground beneath them. And we all recognize this jack-o'-lantern. That's the Misfits jack-o'-lantern, which it's amazing. Candy apples and razor blades. Okay, I think London Dungeon is next. Yep. And there you go. We get another one. The hands are what, because I draw and paint too. I've always had a hard time with hands. It's super hard. So whenever I see a good looking set of hands, I'm still amazed. Just, the cuffs, the shackles, Biz's ability to use shadow to highlight the anatomy. He just, good Lord. The eyes looking up. The brick. Just, good Lord, Biz. It's frustrating how good he is. London Dungeon's a cool song too. You know, it was a little bit of a departure from what, you know, all the stuff that they had been doing around that time. That's on I think it's on 3 Hits from Hell. So that was April, pretty sure that's April of 1981. So that means it's right around the time Doyle joined. So yeah. But the guy that helped him record it played a little bit of guitar on it and really sort of enhanced the atmosphere of the song. You know, everybody in the Misfits, you know, sort of the pantheon of Misfits fandom knows the story about the Misfits go to England to do this tour with the Damned, and the tour ends up falling through and it doesn't happen. And Bobby Steele, who was the guitar player before Doyle, and Glenn end up getting thrown in jail, and that's how we get London Dungeon. You know, Glenn writes a song about the ordeal, which is pretty interesting. I don't want to be here in your London dungeon. I don't want to be here in your British hell. Ain't no mystery why I'm in misery and hell. Yeah. Good song, too. God, it's a great song. Pretty sure when I saw Danzig and Doyle the last time, they played it, too. It was cool to see Johnny Kelly from Typo Negative back in Glen Up. I interviewed Johnny, obviously. If you get an opportunity, go listen to that interview. It was really fun. I was probably on the phone with Johnny for damn near 3 hours. Like, he was great. Talked about a bunch of stuff, like John Bonham and, you know, his relationship with Peter and how much he missed him. And it's just a really, really, really cool conversation. And God, Johnny was so nice. You know, you could tell he had a real warmth for Glenn and Steve too. And even Tommy, the guitar player in Danzig at the time too, Tommy's still playing with Danzig, but Johnny just he's one of those guys that, he's very appreciative, you know, of all the good things that have came his way. And he struck me as being really, really appreciative of his relationship with Glenn and Steve too. You know, Steve really, you know, just said, I think Steve had said that Glenn was, you know, the greatest boss you could ask for, which that's cool to hear. It's cool to know that the main brain behind bands that you like are good to their people. That's always really nice to hear that. And I've had other sources that have confirmed that as well. So it's a cool thing to know. Yeah. Boy, this came out awesome. Another good poster, too. Be nice if Glenn and Biz did these. And then Who Killed Marilyn? So if you don't know Who Killed Marilyn, this was released by Glenn Danzig solo. And I think this would have been August of 81, I think. It's not long before the Halloween single comes out, I think. Because the Halloween single came out in October of 81. So this is not too long before that. So I think Glenn just wanted to get the song out there. He definitely needed, you know, a musician's got to work, because if you don't work, you ain't got no money coming in. But Marilyn Monroe, the story of her and how she died. And obviously the Kennedys back here. What an interesting story that is. I just realized that's the shirt I'm wearing right now. That's funny. I think I wind up wearing this shirt for a lot of episodes of Vinyl Thursday. It's very comfortable. Yeah. Oh, God. It's cool. And then Come Back. Come back, little raven, and bite my face. You guys get to hear me sing. Well, I think first time I heard Comeback was on, pretty sure it was on Legacy of Brutality. So it would have been that copy I bought at that record store. And then we got it again in the box set. And then again on the true release of Static Age in 1997. So the box set mix and the actual Static Age release in 1997, I can't hear much of a difference between those two mixes of it. They sound pretty damn similar. I don't think there's been any instruments that were added between the two mixes, but the version on Legacy of Brutality is very, very different than what came in the box set and on the actual release of Static Age. So Legacy of Brutality, that's 85, and I believe it was Glenn and Eerie Vaughn, who was the bass player in Samhain the entire time in Samhain, and then a big chunk of Danzig as a band. Glenn and Eerie had went into the studio to kind of tune up some of the songs that were going to be on Static Age, and so the Legacy of Brutality mix is quite a bit different. A lot of reverb. The guitar is mixed quite a bit different, and my gut tells me that Glenn probably overdubbed some of the guitar on there, and pretty sure that Eerie played a little bit of drums on Legacy of Brutality, but don't quote me on that, because like I said, I didn't go back and refresh my memory about much of this. So some of my dates could be wrong. I could be wrong about some of the details, but Eerie's a drummer too. He was a good drummer as well. He played in Rosemary's Babies before he was in Samhain, and him and Doyle obviously palled around together when they were young. So it gave Eerie a bunch of exposure to the Misfits as a band. You know, he photographed them quite a bit, and, you know, he'd been to shows and stuff like that. So he was just kind of around. So I think to me, it made sense that Eerie wound up being the bass player for Samhain, just because, you know, him and Glenn probably had a really good, you know, rapport with each other. They knew each other, and they're from the same town, you know, that sort of thing. So there's probably a lot of reciprocal respect there between the two of them through that period of their careers. So Legacy Brutality is definitely worth checking out. I think sometimes it tends to get overlooked, I've discovered with some Misfits fans, just because you can get most of that stuff on other releases. So it's kind of redundant in that regard. But you got to think about, at the time that Legacy Brutality came out, there was stuff on there that no one had ever heard before, or heard it in a way that it is on Legacy of Brutality before. You know, I think that was the first time I heard a song called American Nightmare, which it's got a bit of an Elvis vibe to it. So that's the first, in my opinion, the first real appearance of Glenn's Elvis side, quote unquote, I guess. But it's a really, really great song. And I mean, Static Age, you know, whether it's Static Age, Legacy of Brutality, or the box set, Comeback is an awesome song. It's an odd song too, from a structure standpoint as well. It just flows a little bit differently than some of the other Misfit stuff. And Static Age is kind of that way in general. Static Age is just kind of an odd album in the greater context of all the stuff that the Misfits released. You know, Walk Among Us and Earth AD and Evil Live make a lot of sense, even though they're all a little bit different, especially when you compare Earth AD, Wolf's Blood to Walk Among Us. It's quite a bit different. They got way heavier and way more, for lack of a better term, gnarly on Earth AD, Wolf's Blood. But when you stand, you know, Walk Among Us and Evil Live together, and then you put Earth AD, Wolf's Blood next to it, it all can make sense. Static Age to me has always been kind of the odd man out. Number one, it's early on in Glenn's writing his songwriting arc. And number two, just the playing on the album is much, much different than what we would get later on in the Misfits arc. Not saying it's bad. It's not what I'm saying, but I am saying it's different. You know, it's not the Misfits that we would eventually come to know on down the road. But I think Comeback, out of that batch of songs, you know, I have a real love for Static Age as an album. We got, when that album was released on its own, outside the box set and outside of the songs that appeared on Legacy of Brutality, we got an extra song on Static Age called In the Doorway. That was the first time we had heard a brand new Glenn Danzig era, quote unquote, Misfits song at that point. And it was a big deal. There's a brand new song. It's like, holy shit. It was a great big deal. And then all the outtakes that they put at the end of the album, where you can hear a little bit of the banter between the guys in the band recording the music and stuff like that. It was just it was a really, it shed some light on how the band started and first came to be, that we didn't always have, above and beyond the Cough Cool 7-inch, the songs that appeared on Legacy of Brutality and in the box set. It was just, it was cool to have like a very detailed and clear snapshot of the band at that moment. The pictures inside the booklet, stuff like that. You know, it was illuminating as far as that era of the band goes. And Comeback is a great song. It's a really, really great song. Hollywood Babylon's on there. She, Last Caress, TV Casualty, Static Age. Theme for a Jackal, I think. Angel Fuck. Yeah, there's Hybrid Moments is on there too. It's those batch of songs are just towering. Some of those songs are some of the most important songs in the Misfits catalog to this day. You know, so, I mean, they really came out of the gate swinging. They recorded that in, I think, 77, 78, but it didn't get a full-on release of its own until 1997, above and beyond the stuff that was in the box set. So it was a really, really important release for Misfits fans, because it just felt, it was satisfying. It was a very satisfying release. That's the best way I can describe it. But I don't want to keep going off in the left field on it, but that Raven looks amazing. Yeah. Look at Biz's cross-hatching on there. He's doing lines at 45-degree angles. It makes me wonder if it's supposed to look like a straight jacket. God, that looks cool. Look at the teeth. Look at the eye. Oh, God, that looks awesome. Man. Biz killed it. Dude's a phenom. Great songs, too. Jesus criminy. Oh, good Lord. Such a big fan of the Misfits, Samhain, and Danzig. It's awesome. And there's the back of the cover. Sorry. Yeah, that came out great. And there's the back of it. By popular demand, the incredible second volume of Glenn Danzig's free verse lyrics from his songs from Danzig, Samhain, and the Misfits, once again masterfully illustrated by longtime collaborator Simon Bizley. What a great release. So, there's volume 2. You guys get an opportunity, snatch this thing up. Just what a great release to have. And maybe you'll get lucky the way I did. You might get something that's signed, which, that's amazing. Makes you want to go and see if I can get an opportunity to have Simon sign it as well. That would be cool. But what a great release. All right, folks, that is it for this edition of Vinyl Thursday. Question: if you were to pick any Glenn Danzig pen song that isn't already in the lyrics of the Left Hand books, what would you choose to be illustrated by Simon Bizley? That's a tough one. I think I could maybe narrow it down to 20 on a good day, but let us know in the comment section below. Otherwise, thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.